Hey, how's it going? I have a new setup. So this is going to be a little strange for me at first. Let me just double check that my audio is going through the right microphone. I'm going to move the mic over here. So it's come to my attention. Well, I mean, like I've noticed that technical difficulties, y'all. Basically, I have this wonky table, which is great. I mean, it's normally for everything else in life, it's not a big deal that it's kind of wobbly and it does its job. And that's all just fine. But I've noticed that when I'm streaming, I'm just wobbling the whole time. So I decided to put my camera on a tripod and see how that goes. So now the camera's on a tripod and that looks a lot better. It's just going to be strange for me to get in the habit of looking over here versus looking over here. And I'm going to have to go back and forth, obviously, because I am going to be talking to the chat. So I hope y'all are doing well. Welcome to the 12th episode. Is that where we're at now? Yeah, the 12th episode of the PulseChain Positivity Podcast. I am slowly but surely converting these into audio format, so they will be available on Spotify as an actual podcast at some point. And I started doing this series really just to get back in the habit of being a part of the community, talking to people who are still here during this very brutal bear market, and to be a voice of positivity in the midst of what can be really detrimental for some people, for their mental health, for their physical everything. Just it can be really difficult when you are tied to your finances. And one of the things that I've learned being in this ecosystem is that really the mindset that we should go about when we're doing these things, right? When we're putting our money into crypto, the way that I looked at it, and this is maybe a big reason why I've had the ability to remain so positive through this whole time, is that when I put what I did originally into the Hex ecosystem at first, right? Because it was just Hex. I was just dollar DCAing into Hex. And as I was putting that money in, I was thinking to myself, this is money I'm willing to lose. This is a bet I'm willing to take. This is a gamble. So knowing that I wasn't tied to that money, right? That I didn't need it, right? And that it was something that I wanted to see grow. And my hope is that this will be my 401k. I did take money out of a 401k. Or they're really 104ks now. I stole that from RG. Thanks. But the way that the system is, right? You go to this job, you work a 9 to 5. Ultimately, you're making someone else rich. You come home, you're tired, you just want to chill, turn your brain off and watch some shows. And you do this on repeat for years. And then you hope maybe that this company is going to provide you with something worthwhile at the end of your career there. But in reality, we're seeing more and more and more that that's not the case, that no one else is looking out for you, that you need to have control and custody over your own finances. And the beautiful thing to me is that I was on my way there before I even knew what Hex was. I had started looking into how to take control over my finances. I started listening to things like Think and Grow Rich. There was a CD series I listened to called Your Wish is Your Command. I talked about this in the past a little bit. It's kind of controversial because I can't remember the name of the author, but like he was like kind of a scammy kind of dude. But the principles in the book did me well. They got me to start to think about wealth and financial freedom and what I wanted my future to look like. That was always not easy for me. That was never something that I really spent a lot of time doing, envisioning my future, envisioning what it is that I wanted to see and what I wanted to call into my life. So with those principles in mind, with those ideas in mind, that wealth is out there. Those millions and billions of dollars are out there waiting for you. When I learned about Hex and the way a T-share works, the way the shares work, it was a no-brainer for me. So that's why I started putting my money into Hex. And all of that to say, really, if you're in control of your own finances, what are you worried about? Huh? If you're staked 5555, right? Here and there, it's not a bad thing to get yourself staked. I'm gonna put this up here because we're gonna delve into that very soon. Let me say what's up to the chat. All right, we got Anna McCory. What's up, Anna? Okay, right. Gotta do all of these things. Anna says, hi there. I finally managed to catch your stream live. So happy that you are here catching my stream live. Torin says, great topic for us all. 100%. We're going to get to fasting in just a moment. And Garton says, greetings. Greetings, Garton. Thank you for being here. Thank you for always showing up. I really appreciate y'all being here, watching, hanging out with me. It's great. So we are talking about fasting today, and that is something that has been on my mind a lot recently. I just did a 2-day fast a few days ago. Let me think. I think it was Monday and Tuesday I fasted. Or no, it was from Sunday until Tuesday. And then I just started a fast. I stopped eating at about 3:30. So that was almost an hour ago. So I don't know how long I will do this next fast. My goal is at least 48 hours. The longest fast I've ever done, at least in recent memory, was 88 hours. And I'd like to beat that at some point. I don't know if I'm going to get there this time because I'm stationary until Monday morning. And then Monday, I have to book it to another location for my next host as I'm in between PulseChain tour dates, right? So we just did the Nashville meetup. I'm on my way to Charlotte, and I'm about 5 hours of a drive from Charlotte. I'll be staying. I'm just outside. I'm just east of Nashville right now. So I decided to stay out here for a couple days, and then I have another host just outside of Charlotte. So I'll be out there for Monday and Tuesday, possibly Wednesday as well, kind of depending on what goes on with the rest of the crew. Charlotte's going to be awesome. I'm going to plug that real quick. PulseChainTour.com, Rags to Riches, Crypto Sloth, RG3. Got some real heavy hitters coming to that event that are going to just blow your mind and make things make sense. If you've never heard of crypto, you don't know what a Bitcoin is, come hang out and learn some things, because we've got a huge there's so much vocabulary, and there's so many little things and nuances to the way DeFi, right, true DeFi that we're into, works. And it's not just people hear about Shiba or Dogecoin or Pepe, right? There's all these things that are out there, NFTs, right? Like what are all these things? What do they mean for the great society at large? And how is it that someone like me sees generational wealth in DeFi? Right? So come out to a PulseChain tour meetup to learn more about all that. You can also ask questions in the chat. I am super about that. All right. Hi, Jason Ariana says, you're live. What's up, old friend? What is up, old friend? Good to see you. Thank you for checking in on me and watching this here live stream. I hope you're doing well. Hey, man, if you've got any questions about crypto, I would love to teach you a thing or two, or at least lead you to someone who can explain it, because, man, I'm let me just put it this way. I've not seen any gains in my crypto journey yet, but I am living the life and I'm loving it and I'm having a grand old time. I've learned so much through this journey so Richard Hart, I don't know if you know this, Jason, but Richard Hart is the creator of the Hex cryptocurrency, as well as the PulseChain layer 1, which is a copy of Ethereum. And since I came into this world, it's just changed everything, and I'm happy as a clam. in my little bus. So good to see you and hear from you. We'll be talking about fasting in just a moment. And I got WON, Wisdom of Now says you are so right. I'm not sure exactly what I was right about, but thank you. I'm glad to hear that. All right. So let's get into it. This is a fantastic book. It was gifted to me by a sweet, wonderful, fantastical Hexican. And I've started reading it. I think I'm going to probably be reading more on stream with you all than I do normally. I'm not a big physical book reader, so this is kind of fun. It's nice that I get to put this to use and actually physically read it with you and answer questions and go into some commentary. So I believe we started with, let's see. Ding, 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 ding. So we were reading the chapter, and this is a continuation. I started reading this book a few episodes ago, so if you want to check that out, please do. We are reading Longevity Now. Hopefully my audio is all good. Let me know if you guys can hear me fine. If anything is wrong or weird, let me know. Longevity Now, page 87. I don't remember how far we got. I feel like we did not get that far. Okay, that's right. Okay. So like I said, new setup, y'all. I gotta work out the kinks with this. Hold on. Let me pardon me for one moment. I'm gonna see if I can do this. Set this up. Make this better. Let's see. Intermission. Talk amongst yourselves. It's not quite doing what I wanted it to do. And now I've got weird shadows. All right, hold on. Loud noises. Hey, shout out to Georgia Carrera, by the way, for hooking me up with this here tripod that I'm using for this light. Georgia is wonderful. She hablas español. She does a great job bridging the Spanish and English Pulse and Hexican community. So thank you again, Georgia, for my sweet little light there. Okay, I think we're good. Oh, one more comment before we start reading. Degen Dougie says, hey, lady, did you get a spot to park in Charlotte yet? No. No, I didn't. I have a spot to park outside of Charlotte, but so I use this thing called Harvest Hosts, and I'll talk about that one day too. I'm going to kind of go into works, and that's where I'm at right now. I'm at a Harvest Host spot. However, they are limited. I can only stay, depending on the host, anywhere between the maximum I've seen is 5 days. The spot I'm at right now, I think his max is 5 days, but I need to get closer to Charlotte. I'm too far out, so I'm only staying here till Monday. And then on Monday, I have another spot where I get to stay for 2 nights, and that's right outside of Charlotte. But after those 2 nights, so like Wednesday through the weekend, basically, like I don't have a spot yet. It might work out that I can, pardon the noises. It might work out that I can park in the hotel lobby of wherever the rest of the team is at. Sometimes that works, but if you got any other ideas, let me know, Dougie. I appreciate you. I'm super stoked to meet you and your wife when we come out that way. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, let us continue this reading of Lifespan, Why We Age and Why We Don't Have to by David A. Sinclair, PhD, and Matthew D. LaPlante. If you didn't know or haven't heard or didn't watch the first episode, they also do a podcast by the same name, Lifespan Podcast. You can find it on David Sinclair's YouTube. I'll probably link it in the chat in just a moment. But we're going to continue. I'll just kind of recap the last part that we talked about, which was very, very brief. We actually did not get very far. Was just the beginning of this chapter where he's basically talking about the fact that back in the day, people used to think that things like pneumonia or the flu were inevitable, right? That was just going to be one of the ways you died. And we have this train of thought now, many people do, that aging is just inevitable. That's just what happens and you die. But that dialogue, right? That idea is changing. We're starting to learn about why aging occurs and what are some different ways that we can make it so that we don't really age, or that we are able to extend our lifespans healthier into our older centenarian years. Centenarian years. Centenarian. I'll learn these words better someday. I promise. All right, so let's continue. Let's see. So, and he also spoke about in this previous part of the chapter, he was talking a little bit about the blue zone, the Okinawa diet. He didn't mention this, but I'll just bring up the Mediterranean diet, things like that, right? Like talking about what it is that we put in our bodies. And the last line of the previous chapter that I was reading says, there will always be good and bad choices. And that starts with what we put into our bodies and what we don't. So the beginning of this next part of the chapter says, go fast. After 25 years of researching aging and having read thousands of scientific papers, if there's one piece of advice I can offer, one surefire way to stay healthy longer, one thing you can do to maximize your lifespan right now, it's this: eat less. This is nothing revolutionary, of course. As far back as Hippocrates, did I say that right? You know, random side note, when I did Sci-Vive, I had to stop and at several points learn how to say different people's names, different words. That's why I loved doing it, because I learned so much through reading Sci-Vive that it was fascinating to me. You can find that on my channel too. Listen to Sci-Vives, good stuff. All right. So as far back as Hippocrates, the ancient Greek physician, doctors have been espousing the benefits of limiting what we eat, not just by rejecting the deadly sin of gluttony, as the Christian monk Evagrius Ponticus counseled in the 4th century, but through intentional asceticism. Pretty sure that's right. Not malnutrition, not starvation. These are not pathways to more years, let alone better years, but fasting, allowing our bodies to exist in a state of want more often than most of us allow in our privileged world of plenty, is unquestionably good for our health and longevity. Who here, if you're watching, or if you are commenting, or if you're watching on the replay, let me know about your experience with fasting. Have you ever fasted? Have you ever tried intermittent fasting? Have you ever tried fasting for just one meal? How did you feel? What was it that you went through? How did your body respond? I am going to take one moment to check a message here, because I had someone comment on my... Okay, so I posted that I was gonna talk about this, and someone mentioned that fasting saved their life. And I won't say anything about their story, but they said that after 1 PM tomorrow, they're free. So, we'll see, because 'cause I'm supposed to be doing the 2nd edition of the orgasm stream. Check that out tomorrow. That's gonna be at 8 PM. So, I'm gonna see if there's maybe another time that will work out for them, because maybe Monday will be hard because I'm traveling. We'll see. Maybe I can do it Monday when I break my fast, because that's one of the coolest things, and I mentioned that before, is that when I break fast, it's it's nearly I wanna say orgasmic. I'm on this orgasm thing, guys, it's fine. So, it's wonderful. It's a wonderful experience, because after withholding food for so long, when you take that first bite or that first sip of whatever it is you're putting in your body, you taste every flavor. And then not only that, your cells just it's like you can feel the nourishment going into each of your cells and just I feel like I'm glowing. It's really wonderful. So, Stizzy, if you're watching or watching this on the replay, we'll figure out a time and date to get you on to talk about that because I would love to hear your story. If anyone here is watching right now and you want to talk about fasting, let me know in the chat. I may just send you a link and have you come on up here and continue reading and talking with me about this. But until then, let us continue. All right. Did I say Hippocrates right? It's Hippocrates, right? Hippocrates? Hey, sorry everyone. Rugged. Starlink Starlink is working as intended. I'm actually drinking some turmeric coffee. Probably not the best idea at 4 p.m. to be drinking coffee, but I think I'll be all right. So, oh no, I spilled coffee on the book. Whoopsie. My bad. Oh, no sound. Do I have sound now? Can you hear me now? Check, 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 check. Still no sound? Yes? No? Yes sound? No sound? Settings. Let me see. Audio. Check, check, check. Checking the microphone. Sound is good. Cool. Thank you. Awesome. All right. Let's keep going. Let's keep going. Do. Good. Okay, sweet. Thank you. Appreciate y'all. Oh, P.S. If you're on any kind of social media, please share this stream out so that people can join us and learn some things about fasting and whatnot. That'd be great. I'd appreciate it a lot. All right. So where were we? Hippocrates knew this. Ponticus knew this. So too did Luigi Cornaro, a 15th century Venetian nobleman who could and probably should be considered the father of the self-help book. Interesting. I've never heard that name. Luigi, it's hyphenated and it's on the next lines. That's why I'm having trouble reading it. Cornaro. Luigi Cornaro. I'll look that up later. Oh, there's more about him. Let's see. The son of an innkeeper, Cornaro made a fortune as an entrepreneur and lavishly spent his money on wine and women. Oh, what does Richard say? 3 fastest ways to lose your money. Leverage, ladies, liquor. Looks like Cornaro knew about that. Interesting. I wonder if this is like a different version of Richard, right? In another life. All right. So by his mid-30s, he was exhausted by food, drink, and sex. The poor guy. And resolved to limit himself in each regard. The historical record is a bit vague on the details of his sex life after that fateful decision, but his diet and drinking habits have been well documented. He ate no more than 12 ounces of food and drank 2 glasses of wine each day. This is in quotes. I accustomed myself to the habit of never fully satisfying my appetite, either with eating or drinking. Cornaro wrote in his first discourse on the temperate life. I want to read this now. Always leaving the table well able to take more. Cornaro's discourses on the benefits of la vida sobria might have fallen into obscurity had he not provided such compelling personal proof that his advice had merit. He published his guidance when he was in his 80s and in exceptional health, no less. And he died in 1566 at nearly, and some sources say more than, 100 years old. In more recent times, Professor Alexander, I'm going to butcher this, Gueno, Guen, Guenia? Let me see. I'm gonna type this in the chat. No, I'm gonna look it up. Here we go. because I hate butchering things, you know? Enoit. What's his name? Alexander. Sure, that's what I meant. Pronunciation. This is what I had to do with Sci-Vive every time. Genia. Alexander Genia. All right. So, oops, delete. Okay, thanks for your patience. In more recent times, Professor Alexander Genia, the president of the Paris Medical Academy, just after the turn of the 20th century, was famed for living on a restricted diet. It is said that his contemporaries mocked him, for there was no science at that time to back his suspicion that hunger would lead to good health, just his gut hunch. But he outlived them, one and all. He finally succumbed at the age of 102. The first modern scientific explorations of the lifelong effects of severely restricted diet began during the last days of World War I. That's when the longtime biochemical collaborators, Lafayette Mendel and Thomas Osborne, the duo who had discovered vitamin A, discovered, along with researcher Edna Ferry, that female rats whose growth was stunted due to lack of food early in life lived much longer than those that ate plenty. Quick plug, I got to watch Richard Hart's first live stream ever, thanks to Ben DeBard. Well, it's on Richard's channel, and I've seen parts of it before. But this morning, Ben did like a watch party. So we did the first about hour of that live stream. I think it's a long one too. I don't know how long that live stream is, but we were, an hour or something in, and Ben's going to do part 2, I think, tomorrow. The little bits and pieces that I got to pick up on, I heard Richard talking about longevity and the Sense Foundation. And it was just so cool to hear him speaking on these things that I had no clue about before I heard about who Richard was. There was a point to that I can't remember. Basically just, the fact that there's so much to be learned in this field. And I think that it's so cool that we're on the cutting edge in terms of technology when it comes to cryptocurrency. And I strongly believe that longevity is going to be one of the next big things that a lot of money is going to be pouring into. A lot of people are going to start to study it. So to have this kind of community, right, where we're in DeFi and we're specifically in Hex because of the staking mechanism, right? Because we stake for 15 years. And of course, not everybody, and it's all, like, you got to figure out your own way to do your staking ladder. But if you know the power of the Hex shares and how that works, it makes sense to stake. With that being said, there were so many people in this community who did 15-year stakes at the beginning that want to see all of them come to fruition, right? So it only makes sense that this is the community where there's a crossover, right? There's a lot of crossover between longevity and I love it. All right, let us continue. Picking up on that evidence in 1935, a now famous Cornell University professor named Clive McKay demonstrated that rats fed a diet containing 20% indigestible cellulose, cardboard essentially, lived significantly longer lives than those that were fed a typical lab diet. Studies conducted over the next 80 years demonstrated again and again that calorie restriction without malnutrition, or CR, leads to longevity for all sorts of life forms. Hundreds of mouse studies have been done since to test the effects of calories on health and lifespan, mostly on male mice. Reducing calories works even in yeast. I first noticed this in the late 1990s, and now this is David speaking as himself. Cells fed with lower doses of glucose were living longer, and their DNA was exceptionally compact, significantly delaying the inevitable ERC accumulation, nu- nucleolar, nucleolar explosion, and sterility. If this happened only in yeast, it would merely be interesting. But because we knew that rodents also lived longer when their food was restricted, and later learned that this was the case for fruit flies as well, it was apparent that this genetic program was very old, perhaps nearly as old as life itself. In animal studies, the key to engaging the sirtuin program appears to be keeping things on the razor's edge through calorie restriction. Just enough food to function in healthy ways and no more. This makes sense. It engages the survival circuit, telling longevity genes to do what they have been doing since primordial times: boost cellular defenses, keep organisms alive during times of adversity, ward off disease and deterioration, minimize epigenetic change, and slow down aging. But this has, for obvious reasons, proven a challenge to test on humans in a controlled scientific setting. That is interesting to me. Well, gosh, I sure hope that. Hi. Basically, I'm asking if, aside from these interruptions, if the stream is good. Um, is it laggy at all? Is it just when I'm interrupted is the issue? Because I'm trying to figure it out. Hopefully, it's not too bad. Oh, we got a new person in the. Two new people in the chat, and hopefully my connection stays. I didn't have really any issue yesterday until near the end of my stream. And today it's been mostly good, but a few interruptions. So hopefully it stays okay. Anyways, Kingo55, good to see you. Kingo says, I think we're back. And then Kingo says it's a bit choppy. Hopefully it gets better. I may need to go move the satellite again. Excellent Choice says hello. Hello, Excellent Choice. Good to see you. Thank you for joining us. I'm gonna read a little bit more. Let's see if we can at least get to 45 minutes here. and maybe call it a day depending on how this stream goes. So yeah, we're talking about fasting. I just started a fast, minimum 48 hours. I'm hoping I started it just a little over an hour ago, and so I will fast until Monday. At least that's my plan. Still choppy, says Garton. That is unfortunate. I could switch to my phone, but y'all, get this. I have Mint Mobile. Hold on. I'm going to burp and I don't want you to hear it. Or maybe I should. Farting is a huge thing, right? Like I've heard like these women just like fart on camera and like that's a big thing and they get paid money. So maybe okay, here, I'm doing it. I'm going to burp. That was weak. Anywho. Right. So hopefully my connection's not too terrible. I'm gonna try and wrap up this, not chapter, but this section of the chapter. Let's see how much longer I got here. Let's see. These pages are just stuck together. Goodness. Okay. Sadly. All right. So, okay. We'll see. We'll see how far we can get. I'm just going to keep going. Let it out. Burping feels good. Anna McCory. I hope I'm saying your last name right, darling. Says, or Mikori. Mikori. I want to say it that way. Mikori. Says, let it out. Burping feels good. It sure does. It sure do. Okay. So let's just plow through this a little bit here. So basically we were just talking about how it's hard to see these results or to show scientifically that fasting is good for humans. He says, sadly, it's not hard to find instances in which humans have had to go without food, but those periods are generally times in which food insecurity results in malnutrition. And it would be a challenge to keep a test group of humans on the razor's edge for the long periods of time that would be required for comprehensive controlled studies. As far back as the 1970s, though, there have been observational studies that strongly suggested long-term calorie restriction could help humans live longer and healthier lives too. And that real quick is a point that I want to make about longevity. It's not just about expanding your lifespan so that you can live in an old, decrepit state. Really, the root of longevity is living a healthier life longer. And I love that. In 1978, on the island of Okinawa, famed for its large number of centenarians, bioenergetics researcher Yasuo Kagawa learned that the total number of calories consumed by school children was less than 2/3 of what children were getting in mainland Japan. Adult Okinawans were also leaner, taking in about 20% fewer calories than their mainland counterparts. Kagawa noticed that not only were the lifespans of Okinawans longer, but their health spans were too, with significantly less cerebral vascular disease, malignancy, and heart disease. In the early 1990s, the Biosphere 2 research experiment provided another piece of evidence. For 2 years, from 1991 to 1993, 8 people lived inside a 3-acre closed ecological dome in southern Arizona, where they were expected to be reliant on the food they were growing inside. Y'all remember Biodome? Was that based off of this? I bet you it was. It was Biosphere 2. I vaguely remember that. Just vaguely. I kind of want to look into it again. All right. I'm going to read this paragraph and then say what's up to my new friend in the chat here real quick. So they were living in this biosphere and they were expected to live off of what they were growing. Green thumbs they weren't, though. And the food they farmed turned out to be insufficient to keep the participants on a typical diet. The lack of food wasn't bad enough to result in malnutrition, but it did mean that the team members were frequently hungry. So pause button there. David Lee is here in the chat, man. What is up, David Lee? David Lee says, Mr. Peach. David Lee says, sup fam. And then he says, Stacy uses it to mitigate the side effects of chemo. Great results. Great results. So I guess you are talking about fasting. Stacy uses fasting to mitigate the side effects of chemo. Correct me if I'm wrong, dear Sir David Lee. David Lee says, don't care how good of a hunter you are or your kin was. They didn't get a kill every day. Very true. Very true. Anna says, you can pronounce my name as you please. That's one of the beauties of multilingual exchanges. Very true. Very true. Yay. Excellent choice says yes. Also, Anna, girl, I want to come hang out. I know I said that before, but I need to come visit y'all. I don't know when, but I really want, that's like my first trip that I'm going to plan out of the country. Like my next trip I'm planning out of the country is to come see you guys. So let's make that happen. Excellent choice says yes. And David Lee says heart, heart, heart. And yes, very cool. So yes, Stacy is using it to mitigate the side effects of chemo. That is very interesting. I had a friend who ended up not doing chemo and instead, so he had a surgery done to remove a tumor, a cancerous tumor. And then instead of going through chemo, he ate clean and I think did fasting and is fine now. So very interesting to see that it can actually also go hand in hand with chemo. And my heart out to Stacey, because that is a rough ride for sure. But smart that she's doing the fasting for sure. All right, let's continue. Biodome. I gotta look that up. One of the prisoners, and by prisoners, I mean experimental subjects, and this is the people that are in this biosphere, happened to be Roy Walford, a researcher from California whose studies on extending life in mice are still required reading for scientists entering the aging field. I have no reason to suspect that Walford sabotaged the crops, but the coincidence was rather fortuitous for his research. It gave him an opportunity to test his mouse-based findings on human subjects, because they were thoroughly medically monitored before, during, and after their 2-year stint inside the dome. The participants gave Walford and other researchers a unique opportunity to observe the numerous biological effects of calorie restriction. Tellingly, the biochemical changes they saw in their bodies closely mirrored those Walford had seen in his long-lived calorie-restricted mice, such as decreased body mass, 15 to 20%, blood pressure, 25%, blood sugar level, 21%, and cholesterol levels, 30%, among others. In recent years, formal human studies have begun, but it has turned out to be quite difficult to get volunteer human subjects to reduce their food intake and maintain that level of consumption over long periods. Sign me up, y'all. I will do it. I like fasting. So I am super intrigued. I'd love to be a human test subject. I shouldn't say that, should I? Woo! As my the AI overlords are going to hear. As my colleagues, Leonie Heilbronn and Eric Ravusin wrote in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition in 2003, the absence of adequate information on the effects of good quality, calorie-restricted diets in non-obese humans reflects the difficulties involved in conducting long-term studies in an environment so conducive to overfeeding. Such studies in free-living persons also raise ethical and methodologic issues. I love learning. I really do. That's why I'm so interested in longevity right now, because it's the next thing that's making my brain, stimulating me. I love it. So, in a report published in the journals of gerontology, I think that's right, because it's like geriatrics, right? Gerontology. In 2017, a Duke University research team described how it sought to limit 145 adults to a diet of 25% fewer calories than is typically recommended for a healthy lifestyle. People being people, the actual calorie restriction achieved was, on average, about 12% over 2 years. Even that was enough, however, for the scientists to see a significant improvement in health and a slowdown in biological aging based on changes in blood biomarkers. We've just got another page and a half to go. But real quick, going to address David's next thing here. David says, "Yep, super powerful. We caught it really late." Oof, man. Ugh. I have another very good friend whose brother was just diagnosed with stage 4, I think it's colon cancer. And my friend, is a nutritionist, total health advocate kind of guy. So he's there helping his brother kind of get through this whole thing and, telling him like, "Hey man, like we're going to juice, we're going to fast, we're going to put all these good things in your body and, try and do this." And it's hard for some people. It can be really difficult for people to change their mentality on what it is that is going to get you to greater health, right? And there have been studies and people that have done these things and have come out well and fine on the other side. So either way, it's hard for sure. That's a big weight to carry, right, David? So, and I know you are a stand-up dude. You are just a light in this community. So my heart goes out to you. My positive energy beams and prayers are with you, friend. I hope all is well. All right, let us continue. These days, there are many people who have embraced a lifestyle that permits significantly reduced caloric intake. About a decade ago, before fasting's most recent revival, some of them visited my lab at Harvard. "Isn't it hard to do what you do?" I asked Meredith Averill and her husband. How freaking hold on. Hold on. I have to answer this phone call because I'm on my stream live right now. I am live on YouTube talking to you because because I just spoke about you. Within the last minute, the last 60 seconds, I talked about you. And now here you are calling me. And I'm just letting you know that I had to take this phone call to tell you that, but I'm live streaming right now, so I'm gonna go. I will. Hey, go on if you have time. Go to YouTube. Go to YouTube/A-Wild-SJ. You'll find me there. All right, friend. I'll talk to you later. Funny. What a trip, y'all. I'm telling you, synchronicities. Synchronicities. It's beautiful. Beautiful stuff. All right. So and just in case you just catching this late, this is what we're reading. And I'm just kind of going chapter by chapter. This chapter happens to be about fasting. I happen to have started a fast about an hour and a half ago. And I would love to have more of a conversation about this. If you want to come on and tell me your experiences with fasting, if you want to leave some comments in the chat, if you want to leave a comment later, if you're watching this on the replay, please do. Let me know how you've experienced fasting, what it's done for you or anyone that you know. And if you'd like to come on stream and talk about it, hit me up. It's A-Wild-SJ, YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, all the things. And we will have a conversation because I think this is important, right? Like we want to move forward with our lives as healthy and happy as we can. And this is one way to do it. This is for Anna. You're welcome. All right. It's because I'm drinking this. It's bubbly water. All right. All right, let's continue. I got about a page and a half to go. Isn't it hard to do what you do? I asked Meredith Averill and her husband Paul McLaughlin, at the time members of CR Society International and still very much advocates for calorie restriction. Oh, CR is calorie. I was wondering about that earlier because he used that CR abbreviation earlier. It's calorie restriction. Oh, and here we go. Sophia wants to say hi. Yes? Anything else you'd like to share with the audience? No? We're good? Okay, I think she's fine now. Oh! Uh-huh. Yeah. She doesn't like fasting. She's not a fan. That's for sure. All right. So let me read that again. Isn't it hard to do what you do? I asked Meredith Averill and her husband Paul McLaughlin, at the time members of CR Society International and still very much advocates for calorie restriction, who limit themselves to about 75% of the calories typically recommended by doctors, and sometimes quite a bit less than that. Don't you just feel hungry all the time? Sure, at first, McLaughlin told me, but you get used to it. We feel great. At lunch that day, McLaughlin expounded upon the merits of eating organic baby food and slurped down something that looked to me like orange mush. I also noticed that both he and Averill were wearing turtlenecks. It wasn't winter, and most folks in my lab are perfectly comfortable in t-shirts. But with so little fat on their bodies, they needed the extra warmth. Then in his late 60s, McLaughlin showed no signs that his diet might slow him down. He was the CEO of a successful marketing company and a former New York State chess champion. He didn't look much younger. He didn't look much younger than his age, though. In large part, I suspect this was because a lack of fat exposes wrinkles, but his blood biochemistry suggested otherwise. On his 70th birthday, and LDL cholesterol to resting heart rate and visual acuity were typical of those of a much younger person. Indeed, they resembled those seen in the long-lived rats on calorie restriction. Super cool. If you've never done that or looked into it, I highly recommend looking into getting a biomarker slash age, your biological age. Try getting a biological age test, because that's going to really tell you what your body's doing and how old your actual physical being is, right? Like, yeah, you can use your birth dates and count forward, but really, people age faster or slower depending on how they take care of themselves. So, as someone who, I'm super intrigued in all this because I look much younger than I am. And I really believe that a lot of that has to do with how I've taken care of myself in the last 10 years. And, and I haven't really read or looked into this, but I honestly really believe that my mental state has had a lot to do with it, because I'm such a positive person, because I'm constantly active and doing something, and I don't watch TV. I'm not very sedentary. I'm always on the move, right? I think that being young at heart has kept me physically young. I also have great genes. My grandmother's 80. She's 90 now. She looks like she's in her 60s, 70s, maybe. My aunts, right? Same thing. They're in their 60s. They look like they're 40. Everyone looks like they're 20 years younger. So super interested to find out more about the mental state as it applies to longevity. All right. So, resembles, okay, much younger person. Indeed, they resembled those seen in the long-lived rats on calorie restriction. It's true that what we know about the impact of lifelong calorie restriction in humans comes down to short-term studies and anecdotal experiences. But one of our close relatives has offered us insights into the longitudinal benefits of this lifestyle. And let me just double check. I'm going to say what's up to the chat real quick. Anna says, glorious. Hex Glenn, good to see you. Thanks for coming by. Appreciate you. David Lee says, it's huge. I'm not sure what that was in reference to, but probably maybe something about the mental state, right? I think so. All right. Let us continue. Since the 1980s, a long-term study of calorie restriction in rhesus monkeys, our close genetic cousins, has produced stunningly compelling results. Before the study, the maximum known lifespan for any rhesus monkey was 40 years. But of 20 monkeys in the study that lived on calorie-restricted diets, 6 reached that age, which is roughly equivalent to their reaching 120 in human terms. To hit that mark, the monkeys didn't need to live on a calorie-restricted diet for their entire lives. Some of the test subjects were started on a 30% reduction regimen when they were middle-aged monkeys. CR, calorie restriction, works to extend the lifespan of mice even when initiated at 19 months of age, the equivalent of a 60 to 65-year-old human. But the earlier the mice start on CR, the greater the lifespan extension. That's really flippin' cool. That's super good to know. I mean, I was going to say that's cool already hearing that you can start calorie restricting in your 60s and see results, right? But to know that the younger you are when you start doing calorie restriction, the greater the benefits and the greater the lifespan extension, I'm about it. Super cool. What these and other animal studies tell us is that it's hard to age out of the longevity benefits of calorie restriction, but it's probably better to start earlier than later. Perhaps after age 40, when things really start to go downhill, molecularly speaking. That doesn't make a CR diet a good plan for everyone. Indeed, even Rosalind Anderson, a former trainee of mine who's now a famous professor at the University of Wisconsin and a lead researcher in the rhesus study, says a 30% calorie reduced diet for humans, long term, amounted in her mind to a bonkers diet. It's certainly not bonkers for everyone, though, especially considering that calorie restriction hasn't been demonstrated. Especially considering that calorie restriction hasn't been demonstrated only to lengthen life, but also to forestall cardiac disease, diabetes, stroke, and cancer. It's not just a longevity plan, it's a vitality plan. It's nonetheless a hard sell for many people. It takes strong willpower to avoid the fridge at home or snacks at work. There's an adage in my field: if calorie restriction doesn't make you live longer, it will certainly make you feel that way. But it turns out that's okay, because research is increasingly demonstrating that many of the benefits of a life of strict and uncompromising calorie restriction can be obtained in another way. In fact, that way might be even better. The periodic table. So that is where we're going to stop for today. And we will pick back up on Longevity by David Sinclair another day. Before I end the stream, let me check out David Sinclair. I'm going to go ahead and link David's YouTube here so that everyone is able to check that out. There we go. And yes, Kingo, please get the book. If not physically, get the audiobook. There are both. And if you check out that link I just posted in the chat, you can hear David Sinclair and his co-author, Matthew LaPlante, speaking all about this book and all of it's kind of a Reader's Digest version, right? Like a Cliff Notes version of the book. And they also, it's a great podcast. I need to re-listen to it. I think there's also I think they did two seasons of it, or like multiple seasons of it, because he goes through where they got some things wrong, talks about things that are updated now, and it's really great. So I definitely recommend that. And that's our show for today. I'm going to go ahead and just finish up with the chat here. David Lee says, yes, positive mindset and staying physical, 100% huge for longevity. Keep your mind happy, keep your body happy. Just start there. Kingo55 says, I started 16/8 fasting about a year ago, and it's really hard. I've lost 3.5 kilograms of body fat, but 1.2 kilograms of muscle mass. Interesting. I'm struggling to maintain muscle mass in my feeding window, but I feel better. That's really interesting. I don't measure myself that much, right? Especially in terms of muscle mass, but I think I've built up more muscle this year than any other year in my life. I've gone to the gym. I started doing deadlifts and sumo squats. And I also do free weight flies, right? Like chest flies. and this guy with the up and down over the head thing, and some other things. I mean, I try and do as much as I can, but those are like my go-to exercises at the gym, and I definitely feel stronger. I feel like I've built up a lot of muscle, and I had this goal, right, to be fit by my birthday this year, like to be real fit by this year, and I'm definitely reaching it. I've never felt stronger or more energetic. I think that fasting is key. I really enjoy when I do it, depending on what I've done or what I've had leading up to that point, sometimes I'll get like this last time, about a week ago, I did a fast and I had a really bad headache. I had a terrible migraine for the latter part of an evening. But then I woke up in the morning and I felt wonderful. In fact, you can see the stream that's 48 hours fasted. Ask Me Anything. I'm just glowing. I'm super on fire. I feel fantastic. So I want to try and get to that again. And I think that it's, it's a combination of things, right? That make us fit and will increase our longevity over time. So that's a huge reason why I'm super into this right now. I really want to share this with the community so that we can move forward 5555 and sci-vive, like RH Max says, into the future together. Kingo55 says, I might need to get this book. Here is the link to David Sinclair's. It's at youtube.com/ at David Sinclair podcast. And that's David as it's normally spelled. And then Sinclair is SINCLAIR podcast. Kingo55 says, brilliant. Excellent choice says, you should check out Dr. Eric Berg, DC. Yes, thank you very much. You are the second person to recommend him. And I actually happened to I was on the replay on one of my streams and I heard someone bring his name up. So I just subscribed to his channel. So thank you for that reminder. Sorry, let me finish reading his comment. Excellent choice says, you should check out Dr. Eric Berg, DC. Search for fasting. He has a video that has stages of fasting for people to work into longer fasting schedules. Lovely. And what a beautiful, wonderful comment to end it on today. Kingo55 says, bear markets make us grow stronger. Don't they though? Right? This is definitely my first, and it is, from what I hear, the most brutal bear market. Last comment of the day. Excellent choice says, he has videos on several topics and he tells the truth about foods that you hear from doctors, I think is what you're trying to say there. Makes sense, because doctors Oh, and we're back. Most of them are just, trying to get you on pills and keep you there and keep you sick so that they make more money. Not all. I'm sure there's some good doctors out there, but, that's just kind of the way the machine is. Thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed this show. I will be here tomorrow night at 8 p.m. Orgasms. Yeah. We're going to be talking about this book. So very similar format. I will be reading from this book. We are going to be talking about the female orgasm and how magical it is for longevity and everything else. So I hope you all enjoyed. Have a great rest of your day. Have a great weekend if I don't see you tomorrow. And take care, y'all. Appreciate you.